I would like our time together to be very much like a retreat workshop. I would like this to have the impact of downloading you with grace, with the capacity to transition something inside of you. I would like this to be like a sort of a monastery hotel. All right. I deeply believe in the companionship of angels and saints and all the things I cannot prove. But I live by now because I know it's more real than the chairs you're sitting on. I want to start this by activating your holy imagination. A part of you probably don't use very often, but you are going to use it this weekend. I also want to emphasize that that the journey of consciousness, you're going to go through your mind, but you're going to your soul. And the whole point of my devotion to teaching this now, and it is a devotion, is that to reach a part of you that is turned on like a light for the rest of your life, so that you have access to a part of yourself that makes a difference in your life for the rest of your life, that you actually discover a depth of your own power, that you realize that this is why you were born. You were not born to acquire things. You were not born to shop, as much as fun as that is. I have two of my favorite shopping friends here, but the fact is that's not why you're here. That actually all of us are given the experience of life to discover what our relationship to power, and that ultimately that power is the substance of God. That our relationship here is to discover, we go from a cycle of the power of others in the outside world to discovering that we're powerless, to deciding not to be powerless, to realizing that life is the experience of empowerment, and then finally the surrender of that power to the source of that power, to realizing that that is exactly what it is to say, this is so much power that when we get to that stage, all the power that is runs through us. All right, that's what made Buddha, that's what made Jesus. Now, none of us are getting to that finish line and we don't care. But you want to get to a place. You want to get to a place where you are strong enough in yourself to actually command yourself, so that you realize nothing on the outside can command you. Now, if you can get to that place, even a little bit, even where you realize I'm in charge of where I direct my soul, the law of gravity, the gravitas, the weight that I give to anything, the weight, I know I use this all the time, but it's true. If I said, how many of you want my pen? None of you want my pen. That's what it feels like to not lose your power, and I want you to remember that feeling. I want it to imprint. So you know exactly what it feels like to not lose your power, to walk past someone and not want their approval. Stop it. To not want their approval. To not want their approval. Or to hear a diagnosis. You have this illness. And to decide now, how much power am I going to give that? How much power? Okay, how much power? And to go through the fear of being gutted by that diagnosis, and then deciding, how am I going to get my power back? Because I've just hemorrhaged. To recognize when you're hemorrhaging, that is the new spiritual practice. That's your spiritual practice now. It is the practice of managing your light, your love, and law. To get that God is law. There is no off-planet being that looks like us. That era is coming to an end. And we're living the end of that era and the beginning of the realization of a different level of empowerment. So I just want to talk about that before I jump into, this is really good. I'm going to have a bad relationship with this. No. I have to get used to it. I have to. Me. I'm not sure we can. There's no other place for it. Are you guys? This is high. So Okay. It's taken me decades to kind of understand how we're designed, and I want to say up front that I'm taking you into my world. It is the way I see you, the way I've come to understand us. And so you are going through Carolyn's eyes. And I say that so that you get to say, I don't think so, anywhere along the line. Are you in agreement with this? Okay, so I'm not trying, I need you to try it out for size. And if it doesn't work, just say, this is crap, okay? But it's not a good idea, but nevertheless, I give you that choice. Life is choice. All right. And anywhere along the line, you ask me anything, okay? I'm at that stage in my life, I'm an open book. Anything about my personal spiritual life, how I came to this, anything. I have a wild personal spiritual life. I'm beginning to reveal that. It's been a hell of a fabulous journey. Now, my work as a medical intuitive is what started me on understanding kind of like how the universe is designed with us. But it was a journey and remains a journey of unraveling how I thought it was and how I was taught it was. And I can only say that I believe my journey is your journey. So that part of the journey of life is unlearning everything you thought was the truth. And the way it makes sense to me now is I've learned this, and I'm convinced of it because of the design of our bio-spiritual ecology. And the reason I say that is because, now, if I could write on the wall, how happy I would be. One time, I was teaching in Finland, and the board was this big. And I walked in the room, and I was like, finally. All right. Now I use this illustration all the time. I'm just a child when it comes to illustrations, but they work. Okay, this is my moon man. But this really is you, and the simpler you can get this, the better. You really have to get that you are living in an orbit. You really are living in an orbit. You are in an orbit of your field. So I am part of what I want to shift in you is your relationship with your own sense of time, with your own sense of your history, with your own sense of your relationship to your spatial situation, and how we organize and create our relationship to time. We're in charge of that. Everybody now says, God, do you notice how fast time is going? Do you notice? I don't know. And we now hire people to manage time. How hilarious is that? They don't get why we are collectively experiencing a shift in our relationship to what we call time. But I will explain that to you in my genius, because I've learned it through doing readings on you. Okay? And here you are, see? Now, in my years of doing readings, what I do is I track the power of the choices you make, the power of those choices, and the consequence to you of those choices. This is God's design for us, of how we experience the power of co-creation. I didn't understand that in the beginning. I do now, and I am in awe. I am in awe that every single word we have in our head, every thought we have, is an act of creation. And it has a consequence. It has a power consequence. It actually has a power consequence. And if you don't think so, go up to someone and say, do you love me? Watch what the word no does to you. No. Or yes. One word. Can destroy or make your life. One word. Okay? So, when I do a reading, I'm tracking what I can perceive, what little I can perceive now. I realize what little I can perceive about your energetic history and how you have anchored yourself in what we call the past. Now, as I take you into the multiple layers of yourself, as we go up and up into the dimension of your soul, what is very difficult to comprehend is that as we go up into what Teresa calls the mansions, in the deeper dimensions of you, why that journey is so complex is that you're actually shifting your relationship to the speed of perception. You're actually shifting your relationship to the speed at which you can perceive truth, to the speed of light and law, which really compels you to realize the power of what we call love. That if you grace a situation, so we'll go into the graces, the consequence of what it is to embrace compassion in a situation versus not. What it means to open your heart to the impersonal and embrace others, and the power you have at that level to shine light upon something, to shine your light upon something. How great that is. How extraordinary that is. Versus your choice to go lower and decide to judge and shut that power out and harm and prevent other human beings from knowing that light. But the challenge of what it is to love that great, to empower others, and to get over your fear that if I empower them, they will take from me. Rather than starting to live by the truth, the absolute mystical truth, that everything in my life is breathing with me. That a rising tide lifts all ships. That whatever I do to the least of my brethren, I really am doing to me. To actually get these mystical laws. To live in the power of your soul versus the power of your ego. That is the journey of life. Say that again. To live in the power of your soul. How your soul sees your life rather than how your ego does. That is the battle, and we bring that battle to the world. Every choice we make is manifested in the world. These wars happening are because our collective field knows that we are changing from the fossil era to a solar era, to one level of power, one level of currency, one type of world, to another. That we are being called into a world of holism. How do we know that? What's your body called to? Your body is called to holism. Your body is called. If you went to a doctor and the doctor said, you know, you're really sick, so I have this medicine, but it's good for your kidneys, it's blow your heart out, but what the hell, it's your kidneys that are sick. You would say, I don't know. Something sounds funny about that. Your body is a micro-earth. What is in one is in a whole. This is a mystical law. As above, so below. Your body is a micro-earth. Everything you do in your body and in the whole of your life is duplicated and is your contribution to the whole of the earth. There is no separation. There is no separation. You are an earth molecule. Get that through your head. There is no separation. You are an earth molecule. And we are under orders now to form a whole body. And becoming a rogue cell, deciding, no, I don't want to be part of the whole. I think I'll stay a rogue cell. I think I'll still insist that I want to be noticed. I want to be exceptional. I'll tell you what, the price you pay for that later on. Instead of saying, I bow before you, what are the laws of this universe? I'm here to learn the laws and to play my part, not to be extraordinary, other than ordinary, an outlaw. So I live outside the laws, so the laws don't apply to me. That makes you an outlaw. We hold being ordinary in contempt. I'm not ordinary. I'm anything but ordinary. Look at my clothes, look at my fashion, look at my this, look at my that. Oh, Jesus. Okay, so. Hello? All right. So, the choices you make anchor you. And they anchor you and they take your soul. And they really anchor you. Come on. Don't apologize. Just get in here. Hello, hello. They anchor. And they keep you in, and we'll talk about this. They keep you in these illusions, but this is the law of gravity. You decide, this is important enough to leave my soul imprint here. And I'll leave my soul and I'll command it to stay angry. So you set anchors. And you just keep going. And then someone meets you and says, how are you? Well, first I'm going to tell you about my anger anchors. Oh, Christ, you're boring. Oh my God, you're such a boring person. Don't you have anything interesting and creative to tell me? But let me tell you about my anger and wound anchors. No, I'm out of here. Okay, we're going to get to that, right? And how difficult it is for you to get over yourself. Because if you can't get over yourself, you'll never get over anybody else. Never. Never. It's not possible. You will not be able to acquire the altitude. And healing diseases requires, here's the word, altitude. What's altitude? Timelessness. It's miracle territory. What an ordinary mortal calls miracle territory. It's not miracle. You are acquiring timelessness. You are going into present time. It's law. Understand how law works. It's as simple as that. What did Jesus say? I'm teaching you the laws. I am not razzle-dazzling you. Learn the laws. This and other things can you do. It's law. But what I learned, which is why I wrote the book, Why People Don't Heal, is how difficult this is. How difficult. Some of the wounds people have, and it doesn't take a lot to wound a human being. Human beings are very interesting creatures. We're very interesting. We are as strong as we are delicate. We are as loving as we are bitter. We are as vengeful as we are tender. We are a paradox. We are a paradox. We want to be loving and we want to give love, and that's the thing we're most afraid of. It is extraordinary. I've never met anybody who said to me, I need a workshop on how to hate because it comes so easily. on how to resent, because it's the simplest thing in the world for you. I have workshops on how to be forgiving and loving when that should be the simplest thing in the world. Why isn't it? That's what you're craving. Your whole life's about that. And I want to say, let yourself go, for God's sake. All right. This whole workshop's on get over yourself. All right. All right. All right. Now, just as a fun overview, because I like to do overviews. And as I said in my workshop last week, so for those of you who were there, forgive me, but I have to repeat this. It's interesting how eras of consciousness evolve and how we evolve and how we go from thinking we're so convinced the way the world is and what we believe, and all of a sudden we discover that's not true. All of a sudden. It's as if collectively we reach a point where we're able to expand our understanding of what is truth, right? Like suddenly we can suddenly consider a greater truth and how that changes us. So consider, for example, when Copernicus and Galileo discover the earth goes around the sun. And we think that's such, we don't even think about that. We don't even ever think about that today. But when that happened hundreds of years ago, 500 years ago, it actually changed the cosmology and how the West, especially the Catholic West, considered their relationship with God and human beings. It was a covenant shift. Human beings were no longer the center of the universe. What was the center of the universe? It was a whole measure of power. Galileo and Copernicus were threatening the relationship of the human being to the cosmos. What do you mean we weren't the center? It was a great, big, huge, big deal. But they couldn't argue with, oh my God, here's the operative word, science, law. That there was a pattern greater than how human beings wanted to see the nature of God. That in fact, God had ordered a universe outside of human beings being the central feature. So suddenly there was a major shift, and human beings had to adjust their inner scope to redo the order of the universe. Now, did they discover something, or did they just come to the realization? And that's my operative word here, realization. They were able to realize what always was. It always was. They didn't discover anything. They simply reached a point in their consciousness where they could accept what always was. That was always the design of the universe. And this is an important distinction. I don't like the word discover. Discover means that you're finding something that as if it didn't exist until you discovered it, instead of realizing that, oh my God, this has always been the way. I'm the one that has not been able to accept something that has always been. So that's an important, it is we who haven't been able to accept what has always been the case. Got it? Did I lose? Am I still? Okay. Same thing when we go from discovering we don't fall off the edge of the earth. The earth is round. It was always round. We didn't discover it was round. Like the world didn't become round when we discovered that. We realized something that always was. And it's that same consciousness I want you to maintain as we go into the shifting nature of God. We are on a precipice to realize the nature of the divine as it always has been. It's just that we've never been able to consider that. And that's a great big huge thing to understand. Great big huge, great big huge. We have had to live through eras as we needed to, in which we needed to identify a God that looked like us, because we were in a tribal era. And so we needed to have a tribal God and a tribal understanding of God. But that defined how we understood the power of God as an external force. As an external force. And this is really important to get. Because so long as God was an external force, it was up there someplace. And it required candles and incense and sacrifices and burning cows and doing all kinds of things in order to get God's attention. In order to get God's attention. And human beings could never, ever, and I'm taking us back to how religions were formed. Because it's important to understand that. What's first, from the archetypal point of view, it's important to understand that from the get-go, human beings looked up and said, what are we doing here? So what are we doing? There was never an era of this atheism nonsense. There was always this sense of, look at the caves. From the get-go, they were painting this idea there's got to be something. So from the beginning, there was always something greater than. There is a mechanism in us that requires a connection to that something greater than. You will not thrive. Now, this is as we go into the design of the tree of life in you. Is the Jewish tree of life in you. I said the tree of life that comes from the Jewish tradition, I should put it that way. Understand that when the sacraments, the tree of life, the chakras, all these traditions that identified the design of what we call the soul, it was not out of this, let's have a religion. It was that there's something in us, in our inherent design, and our divine design, our organic divinity, organic, that is designed spiritually, electrically, to connect with a cosmos, to connect. We are connected. And it's in us. And this power that is around us runs through us. And that is what we are. We are made of this same substance. And from that realization, people developed mythologies. They developed, how do we articulate this? How do we, and remember that in the old days, centuries ago, before there was doubt, before there was this idea of, I have the right to say there's no such thing as good or evil, or this arrogance of today, this unbelievable arrogance. One of the truths of Teresa of Avila's teachings, as you pursue yourself, the first mansion is all about the power of being humble. Humble. When I was writing Entering the Castle, and I looked up humble, do you know that the dictionaries say it means poor? Poor. So we have this association that humble means poor, when in fact it means, how do I know how this place is designed? What do I know? Every day, teach me something. How do I, and I ask you, how many times you've been right about something you've told yourself is the way it is, and you learn again and again you know nothing. You know nothing. You've judged someone, you know nothing. You've assumed something, you learn you know nothing. What it means to be humble is to sit back and say, what have you learned from the heavens? Don't you dare judge. You know nothing. How you can't see the past, you can't see the future, you can't see the multiple lives someone's living. You can't see what I'm telling them to do, says God to you. Shut up and know your place. And that is what you remind yourself of all the time. All the time. It's from that position of, but I need to know. No, you don't. You're a little pissant. You're a little piece of sand on the ocean, demanding that the ocean explain itself to you. And I ask you to think of all these people who want to know everything about you. Would you like that? Would you like that? Wouldn't you want to say, shut up? You have no right. In fact, the truth is, I don't even know everything about me. So where do you get to know it? And would you appreciate them making up stories to fill in the blank? No, you would not. That's the position of being humble. Humble says, I don't know. I don't know. Which is where, if you follow the thread, it means just, I'm not judging. You become strong enough to say to God, tell me what you want me to know about this, and I'll leave it at that. There's your prayer. Tell me what you want me to know, and I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, I'm moving on, but I'm not judging. And you start realizing the negative power that happens when you judge. And you put yourself on the receiving end of that. Why are you judged? Because you've judged. Judge not, lest ye be judged. These are mystical truths. They're karmic laws. When you get to a place up here where you get, wait a minute, this universe is law. Things operate exactly as Buddha said, exactly as Jesus said, exactly as these teachers said. They weren't here wasting their time. They were telling us the way the mystical universe operates. And as above, so below. If I judge, I'm going to be judged. And it's not going to feel good. If I love, love comes back. So in those early days, I am fascinated with those early days because they were days, and I'm convinced of this, and I don't know how I'm going to be able to explain this. In those early days, because I don't think there was this sense of doubt that exists so rampantly today, and the arrogance we have today, and the independence we have today. I think because the world was full of, you could say, well, look at how violent, we're always violent. Look at us today, we should know better and we're more violent than ever. I actually think humanity had a very different relationship to time and space and energy. For example, if you look at the scripture and you look at Abraham saying, oh, look at those angels, go take them in my tent and feed them. I think he really did see human beings, really did see angels that were physically manifested. I think in that era, going back to what I would describe as the era below your waist, your first, second, and third chakra era. I think that era was a time when laws were being revealed to us, when we were beginning to understand that there really was a law-based universe. This was the time of Pythagoras, mathematics, when Pythagoras was organizing, beginning to understand that this universe was mathematical. The geometry, the order for Pythagoras, the numbers are alive. And this is really interesting because I'll throw them into your chakras. That the number 1, your first, your bottom, represented being whole. It wasn't just a 1. It was being whole. It's being whole. It was an alive consciousness that he saw within the universe itself, that the universe thrived on the number 1, being whole. We got to number 2, your second chakra, divided you entered conflict for the first time, and you do, in your second chakra, enter conflict. What fascinates me is that all these laws are operating in us. If you enter conflict, you activate this part of yourself. If you give yourself the energetics of conflict, cell division happens. I need you to just connect. Oh my God, I want you to connect all this. Okay. So in this era, you know what happened to me? I'm just going to tell you the side. I was told to teach Pythagoras to the mystery school that I taught in France for years. And I said, I don't know mathematics. What are you talking about? And because in the mystery school there are 7 levels. Grammatica, you learn rhetorica, just, mathematics, sacred geometry, astronomy, and musica. And I said, I can't do mathematics. That's not me. And I was assigned that. So I spent forever studying Pythagoras to get ready for this. The day that I was lecturing on this was the day that I had a download where the teachings of Pythagoras kind of downloaded into our chakra system, into the mansions, it just became one. It just became one. And I got so hot, I started stripping. I couldn't keep my clothes on. I started taking my shoes off. I started taking, and George, and we're like, what are you doing? And I was actually on fire as it came down, but what I understood was mathematics is in us. We are also a mathematical system, that we are the universe. That we are the universe, the oneness of everything. And I can't communicate that to you as clearly as in that second I saw it. I wish I could, and I'm going to do my best. But I need to communicate that our journey of life is oneness. It's actually trying to get that all life breathes together. And that this is the era we are on this journey together of actually getting that we are cells of one collective soul. That we are cells of one collective soul. And we will struggle not to be that. And that every time we get into a conflict, a number 2, and what we're seeing in the world right now is we're going to have number 2 conflicts. And this is what I realized. We're going to have these number 2 conflicts playing out everywhere. Because our cell tissue, just like when you are ill, you will fight becoming whole. You will do the same thing. You will fight becoming a whole person because of all that's required of you on your earth to become whole. This I learned during my time with Why People Don't Heal. We fight becoming whole. We sabotage ourselves. We do everything we can not to become whole. Why? Because we are so terrified that if we actually expanded to becoming as loving as we could be, we would no longer have choice over our lives. We would become drafted into the service of the greater whole of humanity, which, by the way, is the truth. And we are terrified that in becoming drafted, we would become poor. We would become suffering saints. We would become all of this. And we fear loving that much. And that's where faith and trust comes in. That we have absolutely no faith and trust in divine assignments. Whereas we look for higher potential, but we don't really want divine assignments. We still, at the end of the day, think we can control God. Are you with me? Yeah. That is our collective journey. All right? So that's where we're going. It's extraordinary. Aren't we extraordinary? We're little pissy ants here that think we can control the universe. And part of the way we do it is we write the script and we decide, you know what, there's no good, there's no evil. There's this, I've decided that one, I'm going to go my own way. As if a human being can rewrite the eternal script. I'm like, go put your head in a toilet. Okay. Now, so I just want to start with this and say that we are traveling between eras. We're at the end of this era of the off-planet God and the Abrahamic religions, where there's a man-God between us and the cosmos, where God looks like us, behaves like us, where there's some kind of legal court up there where you would say, I must have done something wrong, look at what, because only bad things only happen to bad people, which is why we say when some disaster happens, all those innocent people, what are you talking about? You have to get to a place where you understand events happen. They are neither good nor bad. They happen. They happen. Wars are the consequence of all our collective hostility and fear of human beings. The fear that we won't have enough. What's playing out in Israel and Palestine, what's playing out in Ukraine, what's playing out in Russia, is our collective fear saying, I don't want those people here. Every drop of that you have in you is the fuel they're using. If all of us didn't feel some degree of that, that would never happen. And this is the size of the power you have to realize in yourself. You heal that in you, they don't have any bullets. Okay? You're not safe. We're all participating, and that's the way we participate. And that is where you start recognizing the power of consciousness. Every judgment you make, every person you look at, what are they coming in here over our border for this? What the hell do you think you're doing? But they'll take our stuff. Oh, here we go. Here we go. That's this. This is what it means to start realizing things at a cosmic level. Okay, now, I want you to go into yourself and into your life. I'm talking to you about your life. And as I take us in through every level, I want you to think, I'm going to go inside myself and inside my life. You're going into your journey, not mine. You are going to go track yourself. You're going to go track your attitudes, your thoughts. You're going to go on your own, as if you're doing your own medical intuitive reading on yourself, your own soul. Like, where's my soul? What are the assignments you've given your soul? What are the beliefs you've given your soul? You're going to go track yourself, okay? And how I've come to understand a good way to teach this is to teach that we do operate in kind of multi-levels of consciousness, just as they're described, as Buddhism describes, as the chakras describe, as we do operate in levels, okay? But as I describe the levels, our tendency, like someone will say to me, I'm on level 3. Look, I have to describe the levels, but you have to you have to recognize that it is a whole operating system at all times. At all times. And that we utilize our levels of consciousness at all times. At all times. There are times when, for example, you will feel the strength of your heart, your 4th chakra, when if you've ever felt a particularly extraordinary rush of love in such a way that you find It makes you timeless. It cuts time out. Where you say, I don't want to be anywhere else. I am so content right here. Most often you're not in that place. Most often you're hemorrhaging, whether or not you realize it. You're thinking about home, you're thinking about this, I think one of the reasons I love teaching is I don't hemorrhage when I teach. I need all of me here, or I can't. So I don't hemorrhage when I teach, which is probably why I'm so exhausted when I'm not right after I teach. But I can't teach as clearly as I do without being fully present. And I realize that one of the reasons it's a high for me, I mean an actual high, is because I'm not anywhere else. And as soon as I walk away, I start thinking, Jesus, what about my house right now? Blah, 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 blah. Okay? When you are fully present, or as present as you can be, you're shifting your relationship to time and space. And you'll say to me, I can't believe how much time passed. How did that happen? You've detached from time. And your strongest relationship to time, as you'll see, is in your first chakra, the first level, where time feels like an endless anchor. Like, will I ever get out of here? Because you're hemorrhaging to what's happening in the outside. You have no idea you can control that. Have you ever been someplace and you think, oh my God, every minute's an hour, every hour's a day? Right? Right? Yeah. Okay. So we have multiple levels of consciousness. And what all of us have to learn is that we're in charge of that. Now, what happened because we entered the nuclear age is, I think, the universe, which is very clever in how it interferes with us, is that it gave a new dictate to evolution, which is we needed to understand that we participate in the creation of our reality. When I said it's like discovering that we don't fall off the edge of the earth, it's always been true. But now we had to become conscious of it. When people became conscious that they didn't fall off the edge of the earth, they changed the maps. Cartography shifted. They changed navigation skills. In that same way, we have to change our navigation skills. We have to learn to navigate consciousness with the same precision. We have to learn that our thoughts create concept. We have to learn to navigate energy in the same way we learned to navigate matter. Stop signs, road maps, speed zones. It's the exact same thing. Your energetic anatomy, the anatomy of your soul, is as complex as the anatomy of your body, except that it comes first. Now we have to learn to navigate the laws of creation as we learn that energy, in fact, precedes the creation of matter, as we have learned in physics. As people learned in physics, that in fact, matter hasn't always been without something. Thought before form, which means we must be conscious of our thoughts. And if thought creates form, then thought must be powerful. What is that power? Is it grace? If so, do we pray before we create? You understand that the power at the soul level, here we call it energy. Here we call it grace. But you have to evolve to a place where you actually think, oh my God, it is grace. Because that requires different navigational skills. Very different navigational skills. All right, so in the first level, I'm going to go through the first level, one level at a time, the law at the time, the chakra at a time, the mansion at a time. I'm going to take it one piece at a time, slowly up the scale. Is that okay? We're going to do it that way. And that's the best. Oh, stop it. I'm going to trip over that. Do I have any questions before I start? No. None? Okay. I'll take a few questions and that's. What have I got? Nothing? Okay. One up here and that's it. We'll go.
When you were talking about soul, can you maybe talk about a collective soul and how we're a part of that?
And how what?
How we're part of a collective soul. I mean, is our soul one big lump, or is it a wave, or is it part of a larger soul?
Have you ever made cookies? Mm-hmm. You know how you put all the batter in? There it is. Mm-hmm. Don't know where you don't know where the salt and the sugar end.
Right.
It just works together. And without all the ingredients, right. Am I right or am I right?
Yeah.
All right? You don't know if you're sugar, you don't know if you're salt, who cares? That's how cookies are made.
Right.
All right? And if everybody, what? I mean, it's just as simple as that. Never make anything complex that's truth. We make lies complex, not truth. We are all an ingredient that's essential to the whole. It's as simple as that. And every one of us is a necessary ingredient that is equally significant, important, and beautiful. And everybody's role is equally important and significant, or we wouldn't have it. And never, ever kid yourself that if somebody's quietly in a monastery and you don't see them, that their role is not as important as someone like a Steve Jobs. You got to be kidding. You have no idea how necessary grace is. Those are the people in their quiet, powerful prayers that prevent the idiots who think they're in charge of this planet from blowing us up. It is their grace that stops their madness. And that's the truth. If you really understand power, the loudest cans in the room are the most powerless. Don't ever forget that. It's the quiet ones hidden in prayer that are holding this mad place together. And it's you who are going to discover how powerful you are in your silence and in your prayers. So that you don't need to rattle a can. All right?
Just a second question right here.
Oh, sorry.
How much does curiosity play in the human being to develop spiritually? Because when you were talking about...
How much did it help you?
I think curiosity is quite a driving force in my life. I'm curious. Sorry?
Want to know something? Everybody drives their own car. For some people, it's curiosity. For some people, it's frustration. For some people, it's anger. For some people, it's envy. Who cares? As long as you get in your car and get going. I don't care. As long as you're on the track. Who cares? As long as you're on the track. Okay? All right, everybody. The first place, I'm going to throw a lot together. And I learned this sequentially, but I'm going to throw it all together now. The first thing I learned about in energy anatomy was the organization of our chakras, which is common. Do you realize that word is common now, but it never was once upon a time? I mean, say, can you imagine your parents saying, "I got to get my chakras dealt with," right? It's so preposterous, right? But now it's part of the common parlance. Look how we've come. Look how far we've come. And when you think of how the universe works in its quiet genius, it downloads us collectively. That's how it guides us. It downloads us collectively. It gives us a vocabulary we need collectively. One of the additional thoughts that got downloaded post-nuclear age, because you see, in the nuclear age, we created our own destruction and we celebrate that. We're so foolish. We celebrate that. And we're even more foolish because you think we're not going to use it. Are you kidding me? Of course we are. It's a matter of when, not if. It's how foolish we are. We're so foolish we think we're not going to use it. Don't be absurd. Don't be absurd. Of course we are. Of course we are. Now, it's a matter of when, where, who, but we are. We're going to nuke ourselves because we think we won't. And there is our naivete. There's our absolute arrogance that we think we created a bunch of destructive toys that we're not going to use. Don't be ridiculous. Of course we are. Then we tell ourselves, but not here. It's not going to happen in New York. It's not going to happen in one of our gated communities. Look, I've gated it. I mean, we are so utterly naive. We are so foolish. So one of the things the universe did was it downloaded this powerhouse mystical truth. You are the ones that create your reality. You. The nuclear power you have is the power of your soul, not your mind. Your ego is the destructive power in you. Your soul is the part of you that was born knowing that you can make any choice you want. As you are able to evolve beyond hatred. You are able to become an instrument that sees the futility of destruction. That's our way out of this, is to become a species that realizes destruction is absolutely, we can't do it. But this is the age of holism, which means this time everybody's in it. That's the shadow side of holism. This time we're all in it. So this time we're getting conflicts and crises that involve the whole, pandemics, climate change. We are getting the signals everywhere. We're all in this together. There is no place we can live. Not Alaska, not Montana, no place that is going to be free from the consequences. This time it's holism. And the shadow side of holism, which is you're all in it together, so don't go thinking any of you is the exception to the rule. Either you all change or you all suffer, and that's the truth. Oh, you're so negative. Oh, stop it. Put this in your gut. And you know by how you treat your body, this is our new theology. There is no off-planet God that's going to come rescue us. The emerging theology is a bio-spiritual ecology theology. That we get that God is law, that every choice I make has a consequence, and every choice I make is contributing to the healing of the whole or it isn't. And I know that because how it contributes to my micro-earth is contributing to my macro-earth. So I have an immediate result. I have an immediate consequence. Every act of forgiveness contributes to the whole of the planet. Every act of violence, every violent thought contributes to the violent. We have so much power, and that's what you're going to leave here knowing. Whether or not you turn on that inner switch and decide, that's it, I'm transforming now. I'm transforming now. Whether you turn on that inner switch is up to you. But it's going to take a lot of prayer, so let's start.